Welcome to another exciting episode of the OKRs Q&A Podcast, also known as the OKR Corral, where OKR Insight is the king. I'm your host, Tim Meinhardt, President and CEO of Atruity, an OKR consultancy headquartered in Washington, D.C. In today's episode, we have the pleasure of speaking with Evan Campbell, the Chief Transformation Officer for Gtmhub. Gtmhub is one of the world's leading OKR software firms. Evan is a senior-level technology executive with experience as a CTO, Vice President of Engineering, and Professional Services Leader. His accomplishments in the field of business agility transformation, digital transformation, and large-scale organizational change management make him one of today's true thought leaders. Evan walks us through his unique insight as it relates to taking on the challenges of transformation within large enterprises. So please, grab a coffee and welcome Evan Campbell. So Evan, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here.
Terrific. Take a minute or so and tell the audience a little bit about yourself and your background.
Sure. So my name's Evan Campbell. I am the Chief Transformation Officer at Gtmhub. The Gtmhub is the leading OKR software platform. My background, I came up through technology. I've been a CTO, VP of Engineering, VP of Product in a number of software companies. I've also been in professional services, building and leading consulting organizations that specialize in organizational transformation, particularly business agility and digital transformation. And so have a lot of experience with large-scale organizational change management, organizational design. I've worked in Agile finance, Agile marketing, and those kinds of spaces around helping organizations become more adaptable organizations, which couldn't be more important in the current economic climate.
Yeah, thank you. That was outstanding. So tell the audience a little bit about, in your opinion, where the OKR marketplace is today, and not only in the United States, but globally.
Sure. As you know better than anybody, it's really taking off. I think we saw Measure What Matters popularize OKRs, which have been around since Andy Grove introduced them in Intel, 10, 15 years ago. Is that right?
Yeah.
And, Measure What Matters was the top business book in 2018 and really popularized through great case studies at Google and the Gates Foundation and other places, how powerful, the 5 superpowers of OKRs: alignment, empowerment, focus, innovation, flexibility, and really kind of example by example illustrated how OKRs can transform the performance and effectiveness of organizations. So now that we have a huge acceleration of digital transformation, somebody just sent me a funny cartoon that said, who's leading digital transformation at your company? A, the CTO, B, the CEO, C, COVID. Everybody's realized.
Right.
Yeah, digital enablement is a survival strategy now. And business agility transformation is taking off. Whatever label you want to use, debureaucratization, the process of helping organizations be more customer focused, more adaptable, and more innovative, and empowering employees at the periphery to make more decisions better. All of this is crucial right now. And OKRs and those OKR superpowers, I think everybody's realizing that if you don't have this alignment with people pushed out to the periphery and the organization flattened so that those command and control communication channels aren't really there anymore, man, you're going to have a lot of people doing a lot of misaligned work that isn't going to move you forward. So if you're maximizing value and outputs and outcomes, alignment's essential, and OKRs are the best way to do it.
Well, fantastic. Talk to our audience a little bit about OKR software. How does that play a role in the transformational discussion?
Sure. So a lot of organizations start their OKR program in spreadsheets. Obviously, for a large organization, that's not tractable. That's not something that's easy. It's not transparent. It's not scalable. So large organizations realize that, first of all, the way to roll out OKRs incrementally, if you can't flash cut the entire global enterprise of 100,000 people overnight, which maybe isn't a great change management strategy, you want to go vertical. And so you have to have the ability for everyone from the senior executives down to the individual contributors at the bottom of the organization able to align with one another. Now, we don't cascade. That's an Andy pattern. But we do align at every level. And having this transparency across the enterprise of what everybody's OKRs are, so that folks throughout the organization, both horizontally and vertically, can make sure that they're in alignment, that they're all pulling the boat the same direction. You have to have an enterprise platform that makes that possible and gives you the flexibility, especially in the modern kind of evolution of organizational design models and topologies. A lot of the work that we're doing today are in sort of ad hoc teams or composite teams that cross the organization hierarchical boundaries. And even some of the OKR tools in the industry today really don't enable a person to be on 3 or 4 different teams simultaneously, each of which might have their own OKRs. You think about, you've got your functional specialty, you've maybe got a project or initiative team that you're part of, and then you might also be part of a community of practice that has some interests that you're developing as expert communities. All of these will have OKRs. And it takes a very flexible tool with the ability to coordinate work horizontally and vertically to maximize the efficiency.
Correct. Horizontal alignment is a wonderful thing to watch as it takes place. So if somebody wants to get started with this, or they're considering it, or they're looking at OKRs for their organization, what advice would you give them from a challenge perspective that you think are the biggest hurdles that they're going to go through in implementing something like OKRs?
Yeah. I think that the first thing I'd call out, my title's Chief Transformation Architect, and we sort of made that up, but it's a fun title. The idea is that I help promulgate the message that if you're just implementing OKRs, an OKR tool, or OKRs themselves as a practice, you're probably not going to achieve strategic business benefits, high impact outcomes immediately from that, if ever. This really is part of a larger framework, a larger organizational culture and mindset shift. It requires a different attitude within leadership. If you're showing up with the old Frederick Taylor, Henry Ford model that, boy, it's really inconvenient that every pair of hands comes with a brain attached. And you're very attached to command and control models that pass, work down through a hierarchy, and you just put in OKRs where you used to have cascading NBOs or balanced scorecards that are really rigid. You're not going to really see a huge performance breakthrough in your organization. And so there is a change management element. There is an adaptation of the thinking of the leadership in the organization to maximize and realize the benefits that you can get related to decentralization and empowerment of those employees on the periphery. They will make faster, better decisions. They're closer to the customer. You don't need all those layers in the middle. You can expand, management span of control. All of these things are big organizational changes that are a little scary. And again, reiterating, a vertical steel thread of implementing OKRs in a value stream or a P&L or a product line where you can get alignment all the way up and down that steel thread is an infinitely more effective method than going an inch deep and a mile wide and having very little alignment deeper in the organization or up to higher levels of the strategy.
So well said. That was fantastic. So let's talk a little bit about Gtmhub for a minute.
Sure.
What gives Gtmhub its added value to the marketplace?
Well, I think one of the things that that is really powerful about Gtmhub is it's very flexible. The product enables us to support an infinite variety of ad hoc teams that may be temporal, they may be permanent, but you can have teams of teams. Tim, you could be on a team that was oriented around one area of consulting or several areas of consulting, as well as a client project team, as well as a product development for your service offering team. You know, there's this ability to stand up and tear down teams, and all of them can have OKRs. All of them can seek alignment horizontally and vertically. And a lot of the older products that really started with a point of view of an org chart or a rigid hierarchy make that hard or impossible. Mm-hmm. We have great visualizations that illustrate both the alignment or lack of alignment. We have 150 connectors to enterprise systems. It's a good practice that that your key results aren't just reflecting necessarily. I mean, there's some key results that don't lend themselves to this, but if a high percentage of your key results are actually tied to demonstrated objective measures of the performance improvement that the KPI or that the OKR was designed to implement, you know, is actually being updated and reflected in the key result through a connector, that's really powerful. And then, of course, transparency is huge. You know, we believe deeply that everybody should see all of the OKRs to maximize transparency and accountability throughout the organization.
Yep, and you touched on this, and you know, being able to integrate with Jira, Slack, Salesforce gives your organization the ability to pull that vital information from a measurement perspective into your software platform as well. Correct? Absolutely.
You know, Salesforce, HubSpot. Even moving into, you know, ERP systems, more and more, we really want to see that the organization performance is being reflected in the key result.
Fantastic. All right. So one final question. What other insight or advice would you give our audience with regards to OKRs?
Well, that's a lot of license.
It's a wide swath, you know, but yeah. I've asked the questions. For me, it's like, okay, so again, what other insight or tidbit or advice would you give folks that are involved in this or considering it?
Yeah, from a change management, a couple things. From a change management perspective, it's always good to define, I don't like to use the word pilot because it sounds tentative, right? A pilot is an experiment to see if you're going to commit or not. But if you're going with OKRs, identify your flagship, identify your lighthouse. These are metaphors that are patterns for change management. And it comes back to that idea of if it's so much better to go deep and get really good than it is to go shallow and broad and be really mediocre in a lot of places, and prove the value, you know, really create an environment for alignment and empowerment in a part of the organization that can really benefit from it and where you have enthusiastic leadership support for it. And then when the organization sees the power of OKRs and strategic alignment and better strategy execution, then you've learned, you've morphed it, you've tweaked it, you've evolved your own way of doing it, you've made the cultural shift somewhere, and then you've got something to look at and